It began with a letter. A plain, ordinary letter. You could have missed it if you weren't paying attention, but for some reason, I noticed it immediately. It was sitting on the kitchen counter when I got home that evening. A single envelope, unstamped, with no return address, no name. Just my address, scrawled in messy handwriting. I thought nothing of it at first. I'd received strange letters before. People trying to sell me something or asking for donations. But something about this one felt different. I put the groceries down and opened it with a sense of unease. The letter inside was folded neatly, but there was no note inside. Just a single sentence, handwritten in black ink. The words stood out starkly against the yellowing paper. Your wife isn't who you think she is. That was all. Nothing more, nothing less. I stood frozen, staring at the letter in my hand. My mind raced, heart pounding. What did this even mean? Was it a joke? A prank? Maybe it was from someone who had a vendetta against me or Mia. But the longer I stared at the words, the more I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something to it. Something I was missing. I tried to shake it off, but the words kept swirling in my head. Your wife isn't who you think she is. I called Mia's name, but there was no answer. I walked into the living room, but the house was empty. She wasn't home. I hadn't noticed before, but a part of me was already on edge. The house was too quiet. Mia and I had been married for 3 years, and we'd always had a solid relationship. Sure, we weren't perfect, but I trusted her. She'd always been open with me, and I had no reason to suspect anything otherwise. Until now. I sat down on the couch, my hands trembling as I reread the letter. I looked around the room, as if expecting to find some clue, something that could explain it. My phone buzzed in my pocket, snapping me out of my trance. It was a message from Mia. She said she was working late and wouldn't be home for a while. I texted her back quickly, trying to act normal, but I couldn't stop thinking about the letter. I felt this growing knot in my stomach. What if there was something more to it? I thought back to the last few months, trying to recall anything unusual. Nothing stood out at first. We had been through our fair share of stress with work and family, but nothing had seemed odd, at least not in a way that would have prepared me for something like this. A few hours later, Mia came home. She walked in with her usual smile, her keys clinking as she dropped them on the counter. I barely looked at her, still staring at the letter in my hand. She noticed immediately. What's wrong? She asked, her voice light, but with a hint of concern. I hesitated. I got a letter today, I said slowly, my voice barely above a whisper. Her expression shifted for just a second, too fast for me to catch, but enough to send a chill down my spine. A letter? She asked, trying to sound casual. I nodded, holding it out to her. She looked down at it, but when she saw the words, her face went pale. Her eyes widened, and she took a small step back. What does that mean? She whispered, almost to herself. I felt my heart drop. I don't know, but you're acting strange. What's going on, Mia? I could feel the pressure building, the tension in the room thickening. She shook her head quickly, too quickly. It's nothing. Just ignore it, okay? She said, trying to laugh it off, but I could tell she was unnerved. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something about her reaction, about the way she was avoiding my eyes, told me there was more to this than she was letting on. That night, sleep didn't come easily. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the words from the letter echoing in my mind. Your wife isn't who you think she is. Was this a joke? Or was there some truth to it? I didn't know then, but the questions would only grow louder as the days went on. The letter was just the beginning. The letter lingered in my mind for days. I couldn't shake it. Every time Mia spoke, every time she smiled, every time she kissed me goodbye in the morning, I felt like I was looking at her through a different lens. I kept asking myself, who is she really? The words from the letter haunted me. Your wife isn't who you think she is. What did it even mean? Was it someone trying to mess with me? Or was there some deep, twisted truth buried beneath it? Mia was still acting normal, at least as far as I could tell. She went about her day like everything was fine. We had dinner together, went to bed at the same time, and did the usual things we always did. But something had shifted inside me. I couldn't stop questioning everything. I began to notice little things, things I had never paid attention to before. Her phone habits were strange. She would never leave it unlocked anymore. It used to be that she'd leave it on the kitchen counter while we ate or watched TV, but now she kept it with her all the time. I'd catch her quickly glancing at it, and if I asked who was texting her, she would quickly change the subject. Just work stuff? She'd say with a half smile, but I felt a cold, growing suspicion in the pit of my stomach. One evening, I decided to follow her. I didn't want to, but the curiosity gnawed at me. Mia had said she was meeting some friends for dinner, something that didn't seem odd at first. But after she left the house, I waited a few minutes before I quietly followed her in my car. I knew it wasn't right. I knew I shouldn't have done it. But I had to know. I needed to see what was going on. I followed her across town, keeping a safe distance so she wouldn't see me. She drove for about 20 minutes before pulling into a small, dimly lit parking lot behind an old brick building. I parked down the street, keeping my eyes trained on her car. She didn't go inside the building, though. Instead, she walked around the back and disappeared through a side door. I couldn't see who was waiting for her, but I had a sinking feeling that whatever was happening wasn't as innocent as I wanted to believe. I sat there for almost an hour, watching the building, my mind racing with possibilities. Why was she meeting someone in such a secluded place? Who was she meeting? Eventually, Mia came out of the building with someone. A man. I couldn't see his face clearly, but they were talking closely, laughing as they walked toward the parking lot. I felt a stab in my chest. What the hell was going on? I couldn't tell if they were just friends or if something more was happening, but I knew I had to follow them. I started my car again, trying to keep a safe distance, but my heart was pounding. They got into his car. Mia sat in the passenger seat, and they drove off together. I felt a cold wave of panic wash over me as I followed them for another 20 minutes. I watched as they pulled into a well-kept neighborhood and parked in front of a two-story house. They both got out of the car, and the man opened the door for Mia before they both went inside. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned around and drove home, my mind spinning. I tried to make sense of everything, but there was no rational explanation for what I had just seen. Was Mia cheating on me? Was she lying about who she was meeting? And why had she gone to such lengths to hide it? The questions were piling up, and I had no answers. All I had was doubt. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't know what to say or how to even begin asking the questions that were eating me alive. But I knew that I couldn't just pretend everything was fine anymore. Something was wrong, and I was going to find out what it was, no matter how painful the truth might be. The next morning, Mia woke up early, like usual. She made coffee, kissed me on the cheek, and went off to work, none the wiser to the storm that was building inside me. I was still reeling from what I had seen the night before, but I had to keep my composure. I couldn't let her know I was onto her. Not yet. Not until I had all the answers. But the questions were growing louder, and I was running out of time. What was Mia hiding? What was really going on behind the scenes? The truth, I knew, was waiting for me to uncover it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the deeper I dug, the more I might lose. And somehow, that made the mystery even more compelling. I needed to find out more. I had no idea how far I was willing to go, but I couldn't stop myself now. The letter, the strange behavior, and the secret meetings. It was all connected somehow, and I was going to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The following days were a blur of confusion, disbelief, and an ever-growing sense of dread that hung over me like a storm cloud. I couldn't shake the image of Mia walking into that house with the man, his name still unknown to me, his face a blur, but everything else was clear. The gut-wrenching feeling, the tight knot in my chest, never loosened. I'd wake up every morning to her smile, hear her voice as she kissed me goodbye, but all I could think about was that night. The man, the house. What were they doing there? Why was she keeping it a secret? I tried to play it cool. I didn't want to show any signs that I was onto her. I couldn't. If Mia suspected that I knew, everything would crumble before I could find out the truth. So, I kept up the facade. I acted like everything was normal, like the unease, the tension that built between us, wasn't there. But every glance, every word, every touch felt hollow. I could tell she wasn't quite as invested as she used to be. She was distracted, her eyes glazed over when she spoke to me, and she always seemed to be in a hurry. It was subtle, but it was there. It wasn't long before I decided to follow her again. This time, I didn't want to take any chances. I knew where she was headed, so I got there first. I sat in my car down the street from the same building where I had seen her the week before. The parking lot was empty at this hour, and the building seemed quiet, almost abandoned. I didn't know who she was meeting, or if it was the same man, but I had to know. Minutes passed, and just as I began to wonder if I had been wrong about everything, Mia's car pulled into the lot. She didn't park right away, though. She circled the lot a couple of times before stopping in a spot near the back of the building. I didn't know why she was being so cautious, but it made my heart race. I had to see who she was with. She wasn't just meeting a friend for dinner anymore. Something bigger was happening. I could feel it. I waited for what felt like an eternity, but Mia didn't get out of the car right away. Instead, she was talking to someone on the phone. The conversation was muffled through the glass, but I could tell it was a heated discussion. Her voice was low, almost too low for me to catch the words. But I didn't need to hear everything. I just needed to know who was waiting for her. Finally, the phone call ended, and Mia got out of the car. I couldn't see the person she was talking to, but I noticed the way she looked over her shoulder before walking toward the back entrance of the building. It was like she didn't want anyone to know she was here. Like she was being careful, too careful. I sat in my car, the engine idling, my mind racing with questions. Who was she meeting? Why was she being so secretive? My heart pounded in my chest, and I had to fight the urge to follow her inside. But I couldn't. I didn't know what I'd find if I did. What if it was something I wasn't ready to see? What if the truth was worse than I imagined? I decided to wait it out, hoping to catch a glimpse of whoever she was meeting. A few minutes passed, and just as I was about to leave, the back door opened. A figure emerged, and Mia stepped into their arms. It was him, the man from the other night. The same one who had opened the door for her. This time, I could see his face clearly. Dark hair, a strong jawline, and a smile that seemed too comfortable in her presence. They walked together, talking softly, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. I didn't need to. I knew enough. I had seen enough. My stomach twisted in knots as I watched them get into his car, this time with Mia in the driver's seat. They didn't drive away immediately. They sat in the car for a while, the windows rolled down, their conversation still inaudible from where I sat. It was almost like they were waiting for something, or someone. But I couldn't wait any longer. I had to know what was happening. This couldn't just be a coincidence anymore. I started my car and followed them again, keeping a safe distance, but my hands were trembling. They led me to a different part of town, far away from the places I usually knew. The streets grew quieter, more desolate, as we entered an industrial area on the outskirts. Mia turned into a side street and parked outside an old warehouse, one of the few buildings still standing in the area. I could see their shadows moving inside, but they didn't seem to notice me parked across the street, hidden in the darkness. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to storm over there and confront Mia, demand answers. But another part of me feared what I would find. What was she doing here? Why was she with this man? What was so important that she couldn't tell me? I sat there for what felt like hours, my mind racing, my heart pounding. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't face whatever reality was waiting for me on the other side of that warehouse door. I had to find another way to get the truth. I had to find a way to expose what was really happening without losing everything in the process. But I knew one thing for sure. Things weren't what they seemed. Mia wasn't who I thought she was. And I had no idea where this trail would lead me, but I couldn't stop now. I was already too deep. I spent the next few days torn between the terrifying need for answers and the paralyzing fear of what I might find. Every time I saw Mia, I wondered if she could feel the distance between us. If she could sense the weight of the suspicion pressing down on me, like an invisible force slowly suffocating everything that once felt normal. It felt like I was living two lives, one with her, and the other one where I was desperately trying to uncover the truth, piece by piece. The problem was, every new piece just added to the puzzle, and none of it made any sense. That night, I couldn't shake the images of Mia and that man in the warehouse. It haunted me. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, just a coincidence, maybe. But the more I thought about it, the less I believed that. I knew something was off. That night, I sat in my car in front of our house, staring at the dark windows, trying to gather my thoughts. I had followed Mia again. This time, I had seen her leave the warehouse after over an hour, and she had been with the same man. They were laughing as they got into the car, like nothing was wrong. I could feel the resentment building inside me, but at the same time, I had a sinking feeling that confronting her wouldn't give me the answers I wanted. I had to be sure, absolutely sure, before I accused her of anything. It wasn't just about the letter anymore. It was about everything. The secrecy, the strange behavior, the feeling that she was slipping away, inch by inch. The next morning, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I had to face her. I had to ask her what was going on. But something stopped me. It was like a voice inside my head, the voice of reason, or maybe fear, telling me that I wasn't ready to hear the truth. What if she denied it? What if she cried and begged me to trust her, only to make things worse? Instead of confronting her, I did something that felt wrong in every way. I went through her things. I know it was a breach of trust, but I was desperate. I rifled through her drawers, checked her phone again. This time, I unlocked it while she was in the shower. There was nothing that screamed guilt or secrets at first, but I knew Mia better than that. She was careful, maybe too careful. And there it was, right there, buried in a text conversation. The message was brief, but it sent a cold chill through my entire body. It was from him, the man I had seen at the warehouse. It was clear from the tone of the message that they were more than just casual acquaintances. "I can't wait to see you again tonight," it said, followed by a heart emoji. I felt like the ground beneath me had just crumbled away. What was this? Why was she hiding this from me? And why couldn't I have seen it sooner? I put the phone down, my mind spinning. The questions in my head were multiplying faster than I could process them. Was this affair real? Were they more than just physical? Was Mia in love with him? I didn't know what to believe anymore. The logical part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to demand answers. But there was another part of me that wanted to run away, to escape the nightmare I had found myself in. I knew that if I confronted her now, there would be no turning back. Once I asked the questions, I would be committed to whatever the answer was. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The decision weighed heavily on me as I sat in the living room, waiting for her to come home. The house felt eerily quiet without her. Every sound, every tick of the clock seemed to amplify the tension building inside me. I didn't know what I was going to say when she walked through that door. I didn't know if I could even look at her, knowing what I knew now. But I had to know. I had to hear it from her own lips. If she was hiding something, I needed to hear her admit it. I wanted to believe her, but the doubt had already seeped too deep into my bones. Finally, the door opened, and Mia stepped inside. She smiled when she saw me sitting on the couch, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. She could tell something was wrong, but she didn't say anything. She simply hung her coat in the closet and walked over to where I was sitting. "Hey," she said softly, sitting beside me. "You okay?" I didn't answer at first. I just stared at her, the words tangled in my throat. The room felt smaller. The air felt thicker. "I found something," I said, my voice tight. I didn't know if it was the right thing to say, but I couldn't just let it sit there any longer. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty, and she opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. "I know about him. The guy you've been meeting. The warehouse. The texts." "Why?" Mia's face went pale, and for a split second, she didn't say anything. It felt like an eternity. I could see the panic flash in her eyes, but she quickly recovered. "Dan, she started, but I wasn't ready to hear excuses. "Don't lie to me, Mia. What's going on?" My voice trembled with a mix of frustration and fear. She took a deep breath, looking down at her hands. "It's not what you think," she whispered. I shook my head. "Then explain it to me. Because all I know is that you've been hiding something from me, and I don't know how to fix this anymore." Mia didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood up, pacing back and forth, her mind clearly working through how to explain something she'd been hiding for so long. Her back was turned to me, and I could barely see the tears in her eyes as she spoke. "I never wanted you to find out this way," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's complicated, Dan. I didn't want to hurt you." I stared at her, my heart pounding. "How long has this been going on, Mia?" I asked, my voice cracking. "How long have you been hiding this from me?" She didn't answer right away, but I could see the weight of her secret in the way she held herself. And in that moment, I realized that whatever she was about to say, it was going to change everything. Mia took a deep breath, clearly gathering herself before she said anything. I sat there, my hands clenched into fists, trying to control the swirling storm inside me. Her back was to me, but I could see the slight shake in her shoulders. I didn't know if I was ready for what she was about to tell me, but at that moment, there was no turning back. "I never wanted to hurt you, Dan," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But the truth is, I've been keeping something from you. Something I thought would destroy everything if you knew." Her words were like a punch to the gut, and I felt my breath catch in my chest. I could feel my pulse racing, my mind spinning. I wanted to shout, to demand answers right there and then, but I held myself back. The last thing I needed was to make things worse. Instead, I took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. "Mia," I said, my voice rough, I don't care about your excuses anymore. I just want the truth. What is it? What's been going on? She turned slowly to face me, her eyes filled with something that resembled regret, maybe even guilt. Her hands trembled as she reached out to touch my arm, but I flinched, pulling away instinctively. I couldn't even look at her right now. The trust we once had felt shattered, broken into too many pieces to even attempt to put together. Mia's gaze dropped to the floor, and she bit her lip nervously. It started about a year ago, she said, her voice cracking as she spoke. I wasn't happy. Not with you, not with my life, but with myself. I felt like I was stuck in a rut, like I was suffocating, like everything I did, everything we did, was the same thing, over and over again. I thought that maybe if I did something different, something out of the ordinary, it would make me feel alive again. I didn't interrupt her, though I felt a sharp pang of disbelief at her words. Was she really telling me that our entire relationship wasn't enough for her? That she had to go outside of it to feel fulfilled? Then I met him, Mia continued, her eyes drifting as if she was replaying the memories in her mind. His name is James. I met him through work. At first, it was just casual, small talk, office banter. But it quickly turned into something more. He understood me in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. Her voice faltered, and I saw the tears in her eyes. I didn't want to fall for him, Dan. I swear to you, I didn't want to. But it happened. I wanted to scream, to ask her how she could betray me like this. But I stayed silent, letting her speak, letting her dig the hole deeper, even though every word she spoke felt like a dagger to my heart. We started meeting up outside of work, just talking at first, but then it became more. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to ruin everything we had, she said, choking on the words. But it wasn't just physical. It was emotional, too. I thought I was falling in love with him. I could barely breathe. My world had just shifted beneath my feet, and I was too stunned to process it. How could she? How could she keep this from me for so long? She was sitting there, crying, telling me everything I feared, and yet I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. The anger was too overwhelming. Mia, I whispered, my voice shaking with the weight of everything I was feeling. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come to me before it got this far? She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't know how to, Dan. I didn't know if you'd understand. I didn't know if you'd forgive me. And part of me didn't want to stop. Part of me was afraid of facing what I'd become. I clenched my fists, trying to fight back the overwhelming tide of emotions that threatened to consume me. I had spent years with her, building a life, a future, and this was how she repaid me? By lying, by sneaking around behind my back. I stood up abruptly, pacing the room. My mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts, none of which made any sense. I wanted to yell at her, to demand to know how long this had been going on, how many times she had betrayed me, but I was too numb. Everything felt like a bad dream, one that I couldn't wake up from. Mia, I don't know what to say, I said, my voice barely audible. You've torn everything apart. I trusted you. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? By betraying me with him? Her face crumpled, and she took a hesitant step toward me. I never meant for it to get this far, Dan. I never wanted to hurt you. But I was so lost. I thought I could fix it, but I didn't know how to stop myself. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. I don't even know who you are anymore, I said, my voice breaking. The words hurt more than I ever imagined. How could you do this to me, to us? She stood there, not knowing what to say, and I watched as she realized the magnitude of what she had done. The realization that she couldn't take back the hurt she had caused, that she couldn't undo the damage. I don't know if I can forgive you for this, Mia, I whispered, the words heavy with finality. I don't know. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know if I could live with the knowledge of what she had done. And as I stood there, staring at the woman I thought I knew, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. But there was one thing I was sure of. The truth had finally come to light, and now there was no going back. The silence between us was suffocating. I could feel the weight of Mia's confession hanging in the air, like a dark cloud that threatened to swallow everything. Her words were still echoing in my mind. I thought I was falling in love with him. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't grasp how, after everything we had built, she could just throw it all away for someone else. The betrayal felt like a raw wound that wouldn't stop bleeding, no matter how much I tried to patch it up. I stood there, staring at her, trying to process everything. But my mind was a chaotic mess of questions, anger, and hurt. Mia was still standing across from me, her hands wringing together in front of her, her face pale and tear-streaked. She was waiting for me to say something, anything, but I couldn't find the words. The hurt I felt was so deep, so raw, that all I could do was stand there and stare at her. Part of me wanted to just walk away, to leave her standing there with her tears and her broken excuses. But another part of me, a smaller part, wanted to know more. I needed to understand why. Why did she do this? Why couldn't she have come to me before everything went this far? I don't understand, Mia. I finally managed to say, my voice quiet, almost hollow. We had everything. We had a life together, a future, and you just threw it all away. For what? For him? Her eyes filled with fresh tears as she took a shaky breath, trying to find the words to explain herself. It wasn't just him, she said, her voice trembling. It was me too. I was lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. I needed something. Someone. I don't expect you to understand, but I thought if I could feel wanted again, if I could feel like I was someone else for a while, it would make everything better. I wasn't thinking clearly, Dan. I just wanted to feel alive. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just about another person. It was about her, too. She had chosen to destroy everything between us because she was feeling lost. And she thought that betraying me was the answer? I felt sick to my stomach. You could have come to me, I said, my voice rising now. You could have told me you were unhappy. We could have worked through it. But instead, you lied to me, kept it a secret, and threw away everything we had. And for what? A fling? A brief escape from whatever was wrong with you? I didn't want to hurt you, Dan, Mia whispered, her voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you. I could see the regret in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to fix what had been broken. She had crossed a line, and I didn't know if there was a way back. You don't get it, I said, stepping back, my mind reeling. This isn't something you can just apologize for. This isn't something you can take back. She looked at me, her face filled with confusion and sorrow, and I knew in that moment that she was waiting for me to tell her that it was going to be okay, that we would figure it out. But I couldn't. I couldn't lie to her, not anymore. I don't know what to do, Mia, I said, my voice trembling with frustration. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way. This thing that you've done, it's bigger than I can handle. I don't know if I even know you anymore. Her face crumpled, and she let out a soft sob, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. Not this time. Not when she had taken everything I knew and turned it into something unrecognizable. I walked to the window, looking out at the world that felt so distant, so foreign now. Everything seemed different. The life I had known, my reality, was shattered. I felt like I had been living in a dream, and now that dream was over. I never meant for this to happen, Mia said from behind me, her voice barely audible. I don't know how to fix this, but I'll do whatever it takes. Please, don't walk away from me. I turned around slowly, my heart heavy. You don't get it, I said. It's not about fixing it. It's about whether or not I can ever forgive you. And right now, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I ever will. I saw the pain in her eyes, the tears that were now streaming down her face, but there was nothing in me that could reach her anymore. The trust was gone, and without trust, there was nothing left between us. I need some time, I said, my voice cold. I need to think. I need to figure out if there's even a way forward for us. But right now, Mia, I don't know what that way is. She nodded, stepping back as if she had already given up. But I wasn't ready to give up, not yet. I just needed space. I needed time to figure out what my next move was. The hurt was still fresh, the wound still too raw to heal. But somewhere, deep down, I knew this was far from over. What had started as a betrayal had now become a war, one that would determine whether we could rebuild what was broken or whether we would part ways forever. I didn't know what was next, but I knew this. Whatever happened, I couldn't go back to the way things were before. The truth had been revealed, and now, it was up to me to decide whether I could face it, or whether I would walk away from it all. The days after the confrontation were unbearable. I couldn't think straight. Every corner of the house felt like it was suffocating me, filled with memories that now felt tainted by her betrayal. Mia had begged me to stay, to give us a chance, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not yet. Not when the truth had become this ugly. The silence between us was a constant, oppressive presence. Mia tried to talk to me. She tried to fix things, to explain, but her words felt hollow, meaningless. I couldn't hear them anymore. What was left to say? What explanation could make up for everything she had done? The truth had been out in the open for a week now, and yet, nothing felt different. Mia continued to cry, her tears falling freely as she tried to make me see the regret in her eyes. But the more she cried, the more distant I became. I felt myself shutting down, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't handle the pain of it all. I kept thinking about the man, James, and the secret world they had created, a world I was never a part of, a world I had never seen until it was too late. I avoided Mia as much as I could, retreating to my work, to my hobbies, anything to keep my mind occupied. But the thought of her with him kept creeping back into my mind, haunting me, replaying every detail of their secret meetings. I had seen the way she looked at him, the same way she used to look at me when we first met, full of warmth, excitement, and passion. It was a look I hadn't seen in her eyes for months, maybe even years. It was like I was no longer the man she loved, the man she wanted. I had become a stranger to her, and in that moment, I realized that maybe I had become a stranger to myself as well. One night, after a particularly tense dinner, Mia came to me with a request that I hadn't been expecting. She had been pacing around the house, avoiding eye contact, clearly struggling with her emotions. When she finally spoke, it was with a quiet desperation that I couldn't ignore. "Dan," she said, her voice trembling, "I need you to understand. This wasn't just about him. This was about me. I was lost. I thought I needed someone to remind me of who I was, and I thought I could fix everything without losing you. But I made a mistake. A huge mistake." She paused, her hands shaking as she reached for mine. "I need you to forgive me. Please. If you can't, then I understand, but I can't live with myself knowing that I destroyed everything we had." I wanted to pull my hand away, to shut myself off completely, but I didn't. For the first time in days, I actually looked at her, really looked at her. She was broken. I could see it in the way she held herself, the way her shoulders slumped in defeat. But at the same time, something inside me stirred. The old part of me, the part that loved her, the part that still cared, wanted to believe that there was a way to move forward. But I wasn't sure if I could ever truly forgive her. And I wasn't sure if I even wanted to. "Mia," I said, my voice low and steady, though every word felt like a weight on my chest. "I don't know what to say. I don't know how to fix this. I don't even know if I can fix this. You've hurt me in a way I didn't think was possible, and I don't know if I can get past it." I could feel the lump forming in my throat, but I fought it down. "I need time. I need space to figure out what we are. Because right now, I don't even know who I am anymore." She stepped back, her face crumpling as the tears began again. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and I could hear the pain in her voice. "I never meant for it to get this far. I never wanted to lose you." But the truth was, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I didn't know if I could stay, if I could rebuild what had been broken, or if I was too far gone. That night, I went to bed alone. Mia stayed in the guest room, giving me space, but I could feel the distance between us growing wider with every passing moment. I turned off the lights, closed my eyes, but sleep never came. My mind raced, replaying everything Mia had said. Could I forgive her? Could I ever trust her again? Or had the damage been done beyond repair? In the darkness, I thought about the future, the life we had built, the memories that now felt tainted, the trust that had been shattered. Was it possible to rebuild something from the wreckage? Could love survive the destruction she had caused? The next morning, I woke up with no answers. I felt the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I could leave, walk away from everything we had, and start over. Or I could stay, try to rebuild, but at what cost? I had no idea what the right choice was. But something in me knew this wasn't just about Mia. This was about me, too. I had to decide if I was willing to forgive, if I was willing to let go of the past and try to move forward, or if I would forever carry the scar of her betrayal, a reminder that sometimes love wasn't enough. That morning, as I sat in the kitchen, the silence between us louder than ever, I knew one thing. No matter what I chose, everything would change. Forever. The days that followed were difficult, to say the least. The silence between Mia and me was like a heavy fog that refused to lift, no matter how much we tried to walk through it. We both knew that the pain wouldn't just disappear, but somewhere deep inside, I realized something. As much as I wanted to walk away from it all, As much as I felt like my world had crumbled beneath me, I still loved her. And love wasn't something you could easily give up. Mia had changed. I saw it in the way she spoke, in the way she moved, even in the way she looked at me. She wasn't the same woman who had made mistakes. She was someone who had learned, who was struggling with her own demons, but who wanted, no, needed, to be better for both of us. And though it was hard to accept, I knew she had the courage to face what she had done. Now, it was my turn to do the same. A week after our last conversation, I found myself sitting across from Mia again, the tension still there, but a little lighter. We hadn't gone back to normal. I wasn't sure we ever would. But we had started talking more honestly. She had been patient, giving me the time I needed, but also showing me that she was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. I've been thinking a lot, I said, my voice quieter than usual. About everything. About what happened. And about what we want. Mia looked up from the coffee cup she had been staring into, her eyes full of uncertainty. But when she saw the way I was looking at her, something in her seemed to soften. I can't promise that I'll forget what happened. I can't promise that it will be easy. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to give us a chance. If you are, too. She didn't say anything at first. For a moment, I thought maybe I had said too much too soon. But then she reached across the table, taking my hand gently in hers. Dan, she whispered, her voice filled with emotion, I don't deserve a second chance. I know that. But I'm asking for it, because I love you. I always have, and I always will. I've learned so much from my mistakes, and I'm ready to prove that to you, every day. Her words, simple and sincere, hit me harder than anything else she had said. I didn't need grand gestures or elaborate promises. All I needed was her honesty, her willingness to face the consequences of her actions, and the hope that we could rebuild what had been broken. I want to believe you, Mia, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I want to trust you again, but it's going to take time. I need you to understand that. I understand, she nodded, her face hopeful, yet full of regret. I'll do whatever it takes. One day at a time. That's all I'm asking for. We sat there in silence for a moment, the weight of everything hanging between us, but there was something different now. It wasn't the same fragile silence of before. It was the silence of two people willing to take the first step, together. Slowly, we started to talk more about the future. Not about big plans, not about where we'd go or what we'd do, but about small things, the little moments we had missed, the simple joys of being in each other's presence. As the days turned into weeks, things didn't magically fix themselves. There were still tough moments, conversations that brought up old wounds, and nights where the doubt crept back in. But I could see that Mia was trying. She was making the effort, and that effort was something I couldn't ignore. It wasn't going to be an easy road, but we were on it together. And that, for now, was enough. One day, Mia came home with a surprise. She had been planning it for a while, and when I saw her holding the small, carefully wrapped box, I knew it wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol. I know we're still figuring things out, she said as she handed me the box, her voice nervous. But I wanted you to know that I'm here. I'm here for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere. And I want you to have something that represents the trust we're building. I opened the box to reveal a simple, silver bracelet with 2 intertwined rings. It wasn't extravagant, but it was beautiful. It was a reminder that we were starting over, not from scratch, but from a place of growth, of healing. It's for us, she said softly. 2 people who were lost and found their way back to each other. Tears stung my eyes as I looked at her, realizing how far we had come. We weren't there yet, and maybe we never would be the way we once were, but in that moment, I knew that we had something real, and I wasn't willing to give up on that. I'll wear it every day, I said, slipping the bracelet onto my wrist. Because I'm here too, Mia. I'm here, and I'm ready to rebuild, one step at a time. She smiled, a small but genuine smile, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like we were both beginning to heal. Not perfectly, not completely, but together. It wasn't the end of our story, but a new beginning. And for the first time in a long time, I could see a future where we could both find redemption, not just for the mistakes we had made, but for the love we still had for each other. As we stood there, side by side, I realized that sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most beautiful victories. And maybe, just maybe, we would be okay.